The views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the policy or position of ONTV's management, staff, or board of directors.
Detroit basketball.
Hello and welcome to Views from the Sideline. I'm your host, Joey Tysick, my partner, Malik Hill. It's June and we got tons and tons of basketball news. There's some drama at Duke, not really drama, but there's some news. We got some NBA stuff going on and lots of playoff talk today. So a bunch on the table that we got to get to. So Malik, how you doing on this fine morning, afternoon?
My mind is just like spinning from all of this news. It's stuff I'm still like thinking about, and it's a lot to process. All of it, from NBA to college, legendary coaches leaving, one of the most like successful like NBA executives in a very long time stepping down.
Most unsuccessful, successful. I would say it's a weird.
The unsuccessful only started in like the past 3 years.
Yeah.
Once Gordon Hayward went up for that alley-oop, everything changed.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly,
you're not wrong.
I saw a picture earlier on Twitter of the starting lineup for that team that year, and I can understand why some Boston Celtics fans are depressed. Tatum, Brown, Irving, Gordon Hayward, and Al Horford was their starting five.
Yeah.
And a few years later, you got Romeo Langford starting playoff games, and Tristan Kardashian.
Well,
that's tough, man. That's tough.
Okay, so we'll start off with that then. Danny Ainge has decided to step down from president of basketball operations for the Boston Celtics, and the one who's taking his place is none other than Coach Brad Stevens. So now the Celtics bring in a guy that, he's been around for a while now, so he does know the organization. So I think that's an easier transition for him. And I'm sure he's worked very closely with Danny Ainge. But now they have to find a new coach while they're trying to figure out how to make this team better, because they should be a playoff team, but they barely were in the playoffs this year. They had a very poor showing besides Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown was hurt, so that did hurt the team overall. But everybody knows
they still weren't good enough.
Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum aren't going to get it done.
If you have a good team around them, they might.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So initial thoughts: how do you feel about Brad Stevens stepping in as president of basketball operations?
But it just makes me think, like, can you imagine the conversations that they've been having in the past few months? Because this wasn't a thing they just decided last week. Right. These types of decisions are built, and it's a long process that goes on for months.
Yeah.
Danny has been thinking about this for a long time. Last summer, he probably sat down with Brad Stevens and said, "I'm thinking about this. What do you think?"
Mm-hmm.
And they've probably been talking nonstop ever since.
Yeah.
And Danny found the perfect time to get out because, like I said, it started with bad luck. Gordon Hayward goes up for that alley-oop. Everything changes just like that.
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving doesn't work out in Boston. It ends ugly. He wants to be a leader, and it just doesn't work out at all. It fails.
Mm-hmm.
They end up getting Kemba Walker. He's injury prone, and he's aging. Doesn't help much.
Yeah.
But you still have two emerging superstars in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. So the situation Danny Ainge has been in, I don't envy it. Even though, he was the head man for Boston Celtics making all the decisions.
Yeah.
He was in a great position, but the hand he was dealt these past few years, it's really tough.
But I will make a little counter argument. He was one of the part that I bring up unsuccessful, successful. He was one of the most successful presidents
Yeah.
to bring in so many high draft picks from trades,
And he hit on every free agent. He was on fire for like 10 straight years.
but he didn't hit on any of those draft picks. Besides
Except for 2 of them.
Tatum
Yeah.
and Brown, yeah. But like when you have that many draft picks to get 2 and then just have a bunch of duds
But they
that were in the
also
lottery.
you went from the KG and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen era to a little small year where they said we're not rebuilding.
Yeah.
And then that was an awkward transition. Then you look up with Isaiah Thomas and you're winning again.
Mhm.
So there's no reason they lucked up with those 2 draft picks. Like they got top picks with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I'm sure if he got top picks every other draft, it would have worked out. But yeah, like near the end of the first and in the second round, he didn't do a great job with that. And
Right.
most teams honestly don't do an excellent job with those picks.
Yeah.
You got to get lucky.
I'm just thinking with that much draft capital, and then they end up with your boy Semi Ojeleye, Grant Williams, who was actually one of your guys.
I still like Grant Williams. He's a role player. He's nothing special.
Celtics fans do not like Grant Williams. I'll tell you that much. And yeah, just Aaron Nesmith, like, meh.
They could have taken Sadiq Bey.
Getting Romeo Langford,
That
meh.
Boston fans were really angry about the fact that they could have gotten Bey and they took
Yeah.
him instead.
Which is funny because on draft night, I wanted the Pistons to take Nesmith, and then they ended up getting Bey, which actually worked out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there is a part of luck to it, but they had so many draft picks that they messed up on, it feels like. Or so many, like, lottery
Well, that's because they
type
didn't need
picks.
them.
Yeah, but still, you have to, like...
When you get Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving and you have Al Horford,
Right, they shouldn't have needed them, but at the same
Exactly.
time...
That's how most like high level winning teams are though.
Right.
The Spurs have never cared about draft picks.
Mhm.
Once they got their guys, who cared about picks for like 15 years straight?
But the Spurs are also very good at using their draft picks very well,
For the most part.
one could argue. So
I think you asked me about Gordon Hayward and I never answered that part. I just went straight to Danny Ainge.
I don't think I said anything about Gordon Hayward. You've been talking about Gordon Hayward.
I thought you asked me like what I thought about him moving into that position. I'm pretty sure that was the question you asked.
No, Brad Stevens moving into that position. Not
Okay, yeah.
Hayward.
Like I said, my mind is still spinning and processing all of these things.
How do you feel about Brad Stevens being the president of basketball operations?
We're gonna have to see. I've never seen him in a position like this. I've just seen him as the coach.
Right.
We've seen he's not great at managing like superstar egos and attitudes. Some coaches are meant to do that, like a Ty Lue, or like those certain types of coaches that are just there to manage like superstars and all those egos. Brad Stevens is just a good old basketball coach.
Well,
That's what he
Ty
does.
Lue's not necessarily a coach. He just kind of sits there. That's why he
Managing
works.
egos.
I don't know if he manages his egos. I think he just lets them go and it works out.
That's
That's the problem.
mainly what Ty Lue was there for.
Brad Stevens tries to manage the egos, and then the
I
egos
don't
fight back.
I don't think Brad Stevens even tries. I just think he coaches basketball and lets everybody else figure things out.
And to be fair, Kyrie is a different breed.
Yes.
So,
But also, dealing with Marcus Smart, I'm sure has been a challenge for him for a while. I'm sure they have a great relationship, but Marcus explodes and goes crazy after bad losses. And yeah, I'm sure he got a little bit tired of that and just dealing with the mess that the stress of being the Celtics coach
yeah.
might have gotten to him a little bit. And
hmm
he just wanted to step into a role where he can just place the players where they need to be and let the coaches handle everything else.
Yeah. And I think he can do a good job of that. I mean, he's always seemed like the younger guys seem to like how he coaches and things like that. I mean, he comes from the college game, which I think helps at that aspect for transitioning players and things like that.
Although it seems like his voice was kind of like they might not have been listening to him as much as they used to
Yeah.
because the
Yeah, I
defense
think-
just went out the window.
Yeah, I do think
this
he's
season.
lost a bit of it, and I think that's also why it was a good move because a lot of people were tired of Danny Ainge at this point, just because It seemed like he's kind of run his course, and same with Brad Stevens. So to make this move, I think works for the Celtics pretty well.
But that leaves a hole.
Yes. So now there's a coaching issue. And who in the world can they get to fill in this coaching role?
Listen, they better get Tatum and Brown involved with this search. That's all I know.
Yeah.
You can't pick somebody that goes against your 2 young superstars.
Right.
A kid that just scored 50 twice in like a 2-week span in Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, who's one of the best already one of the best 2-way players in the NBA. It's a tough decision they're gonna have to make.
Mm-hmm. Who would you say is one of your top picks that you could think of to take over?
I'd say after coming off of Brad Stevens, who was, I won't say like not relatable to players, but like I said, he's just a coach through and through. I don't think he didn't seem like a huge like relationship, like extra close, like player coach relationship type of guy. Although, yeah, like I said, I'm sure he has great relationships with his guys, but I think you need to go in a direction of people like Sam Cassell, or even though he had a bit of a rough time in Milwaukee, Jason Kidd, a coach that the guys can like completely relate to and will listen to 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Because it seems like they stopped listening to Brad Stevens' voice, and they might have stopped respecting him a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they would go rogue and just do their own things a lot at times. They'd still play hard, but they just go off and do their own thing. So a former player that's either an assistant or, somewhere in that direction.
So then
Maybe not Sam Cassell or Jason Kidd specifically, but
that type. So what about Mark Jackson? Do you think he'd step?
Listen, we say this for every job.
I know,
man.
but
We say this for every single job that comes open.
I think it's hard for people to decide if Mark Jackson wants to stick to announcing and doing TV stuff, or if he does really actually want to come back to, coaching a team and things like that. But I think he's like a perfect fit for that kind of deal where he's a former player, but he's had more coaching experience than like Jason Kidd and those guys. And I just feel like he also just relates really well with these guys. We saw it when he started with the Warriors, how quickly they were able to turn it around. Now, they got generational players like Stephen Clay, but the Celtics have Brown and Tatum, like we keep saying. So maybe there's a way that they can figure that out.
If they hired him, I think it'd be a great hire, but
Right.
the odds of it happening are slim to none.
Yeah. A couple other names that I kind of just wrote down. David Fizdale. I've always been a fan. Malik, you think he's a little bit too easy on the guys?
Too loose. There wasn't much organization under David Fizdale. Like, guys played hard for the most part, but the defense was at the bottom.
Right.
And dudes were just, it seemed like dudes were out there fighting for contracts.
Yeah. Now,
instead of playing great basketball.
Right. The one thing I will say for David Fizdale is his only opportunities have been with the Grizzlies and the Knicks, who were both in very difficult situations at the time.
Well, at near the end of the Grizzlies thing, they were still winning.
Right. And that's why he started to gain steam. But then he got to the Knicks, which I thought would be a great way to maybe turn around the Knicks, but it just wasn't the right fit. So I'd be interested to see what he could do with a team that's on the verge of still being ready.
Yeah, I think he's too much of a player's coach.
Yeah.
Like, guys love him and like playing for him, but you're not going to get the best of the best when it comes to basketball.
Right. Another one that I put down was Kenny Atkinson, former Nets head coach.
This is the one I thought was really interesting.
Kind of, he's the guy that turned the Nets around before
when they looked dead.
Right. And this is kind of what got the Nets to getting Durant and Harden and Irving and all these guys, is getting that turnaround with like Spencer Dinwiddie and all those guys. Karis LeVert. So that was that kind of miracle Brooklyn team. And then he kind of got ousted out of the league because the Nets were trying to really make a push for a championship and they got free agency and all this stuff. So he's one that I thought might still have a chance to be able to push some of these young guys like he did with the Nets, that could also be a good option.
Yeah. If you go with like the non-player types that I brought up, Kenny Atkinson might be near the top.
Yeah. Another one is Terry Stotts, we believe that he's not going to be with the Blazers much longer.
Yeah.
And for sure, probably if they lose to the Nuggets here, and even if they win and lose in the second round or something,
Yeah.
I don't know if Stotts is going to stick around.
They're not making any push.
Right.
It's pretty much guaranteed at this point that what they have in Portland is, I wouldn't say close to done, because that most of that roster is probably going to stay intact, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes to Terry Stotts, he's been there too long. He's a guy that everybody knows is a good coach, but just
Right.
hasn't been good enough
Yeah.
to get them over that hump.
It's just like time for a change of scenery for both Terry Stotts and Portland.
And there's no excuse for how terrible their defense is.
Yeah.
Like they get lost on defense more than any team I've seen this season.
Right.
And it's so weird.
They signed a guy like Robert Covington to try to bolster that defense a little bit,
Yeah.
if anything. And then my one like out there pick that I wrote down was Jeff Van Gundy. He's another one that teams in the league keep talking about if he's going to leave announcing to try to get into coaching. I could see it. I mean, he has experience and things like that, so maybe. But I feel like he's been in the announcing game for so long now. It's like it's just what he's known for. But I know some people, want to try things out again and see if they can get better.
I feel like that would be more of a Portland hire.
Yeah.
Like Jeff Van Gundy coached tough. He was the coach of, I'm pretty sure, that 99 New York team.
Yeah.
And like the early 2000s Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
Like once they got like 04, 05, 06.
Yeah.
He coached tough teams that also had really good offensive talent.
Right.
So that might be a pretty solid hire for
Right.
Portland. He hasn't been in coaching for so long.
Yeah.
You never know, but
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think Boston fans would be happy about Stotts if they hired him, because with better talent, maybe Terry Stotts could get a team over the hump, but he hasn't shown.
Yep. And there's also a chance that they just, they go out on a whim and try to get anybody that they can.
But they're the Celtics. They can't just do that.
If Chauncey would have waited a little bit longer to get into like front offices and stuff, this could have been a good coaching chance for him, I think, to be with Boston. But anyway, that's a very weird long shot. Do you have any other ideas or thoughts of somebody that could maybe do it?
I thought
like
of
a long shot.
I thought of a crazy one that's never gonna happen, but it would be great if Rajon Rondo retired and became the Boston's coach, because I believe he's already a top 10 coach in the NBA.
Yeah.
And he's not technically a coach yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be incredible if it happened, but I don't think it's going to.
I think it's more likely that Kevin Garnett or Paul Pierce would be the coach before Rondo.
I'm not hiring them. I love KG, but not as a coach. And Paul, just chill out.
Yeah.
Just chill out. Enjoy your Hall of Fame next year.
All right, so that's the big Celtics news. Well, let's get on to the college news, where Duke head coach Mike Krzyzewski is retiring.
One more season.
This is his final season. I don't even know what to think.
It doesn't seem real.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem real. He's one of those coaches that has been associated with basketball and college basketball and blue bloods our entire life.
Mm-hmm.
It's Coach K is Duke.
Yeah.
That is what it is.
He will have a statue. 100%.
Absolutely.
And the crazy thing is, too, like, you sort of have seen it coming because, he stepped down as coach of USA basketball. He's trying to kind of slow it down, but it is a little bit out of the blue.
Yeah, like everybody knew within the next 5-6 years, probably, he would probably consider stepping down. But it being this abrupt, it was just a breaking news out of nowhere of, yeah, this is Coach K's last year.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere. And it was like, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is it.
Mm-hmm. And I personally, I know Malik doesn't necessarily feel the same, but I think that part of it, not only because he's been there forever, but it's at a point in Duke where they're still getting top like guys, but doesn't feel like they're getting as many. Like Chet Holmgren just decided to go to Gonzaga. He's the number 1.
Well, they got the number 2, Paolo.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
so it's like they have dipped a little bit in recruiting, which isn't saying a ton because they're Duke, but they've also just not been performing up to Duke standards. And it just seems like it's kind of that time where it's like to run its course. Coach K has done amazing. And it's not that there's necessarily anything wrong, but because they're in this down period and he's already kind of been on the edge of retiring, that he probably just feels like this is the best time to just get out and kind of start fresh for Duke.
Yeah, I can understand that point. And I also think it's a thing where I think this is also part of a reason kind of why Roy Williams retired from Carolina. This new thing of basically college basketball free agency, this new transfer market, I don't think these old school coaches like this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it was cool. Yeah, every other year we get a mid-major to come into our program. Yeah, a guy we recruited will leave. That's fine. We're still going to keep our thing going. But now you have everybody in every conference on every team moving back and forth. It just started.
Yeah.
This just started. And it's already like completely changed the face of what college basketball is, which I'm happy about because now pretty much every top team is about to be filled with veterans. There are going to be a few freshmen to depend on, and every team is filled with juniors and seniors now, which means the level of basketball is probably going to rise even more like it used to be. So I'm happy about it, but you can understand why those older coaches don't like stuff like this.
Yeah.
Because how can you maintain the stability of your program and the type of culture you've built when you have this type of transfer market now where guys are, like I said, it just started and it's already chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only going to get more wild from here.
Yeah.
And you have that also, there's a new overtime professional league where high school kids can just go to this other league, not even the G League.
Right.
They can go there, kids can go to the G League and just skip college. The transfer market, you can have 4 kids come into your school in a class one year, and 3 of them can just transfer to other schools immediately.
Yeah.
And then you can see them, they could possibly be in the same conference as you.
Mm-hmm.
Kid Duke transfers from Duke to Syracuse.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yeah, a lot of this stuff goes against the old style, like the old school styles of basketball and the way things used to go.
Yeah.
And that could be a part of it too.
Yeah, and in general, the game is changing constantly, and so it just seems like it's getting away from a lot of their styles. The biggest example that we always use, I feel like, is Michigan State. Tom Izzo just doesn't look like he knows how to adjust to the way the game is played these days.
Juwan Howard came in 2 years ago, and he's already pretty much taken over the state.
Right.
And Izzo isn't going to change.
Yeah, and I think Roy Williams and Coach K, because of their recruiting and experience and things like that, and even Izzo, they've been able to hang on a little bit longer than most because just their pedigree and the amount of talent that they get into their school. But I think at some point it just catches up to you, and it might have finally caught up to Coach K.
Yeah. Also, one last thing. Another part of it, people forget Coach K was the leading force against Calipari's. When Calipari started the one and done style, bring in a bunch of 5 stars and just keep recycling every year, Coach K was one of the lead people against it. And then around 2011, he got Kyrie Irving. And then the next few years, he just adjusted.
Yep.
He was the leading force against it, and then he won a championship in 2015 doing it.
Yeah.
He got adjusted to that, and now things are changing again.
Mm-hmm. And then
so much change.
Yeah, he kept getting guys like Jabari Parker and Jason Tatum and
Zion and RJ.
Zion on RJ. Like, yeah, he grew accustomed to it, and then he basically took over as the one and done kind of coach. So yeah, so now John Shire is just moving up into the position.
Yeah, he's been an assistant there since 2014, associate head coach since 2018, relatively fresh.
Yeah,
which is a lot of people would think that's weird, but like Johnny Dawkins, former player at Duke, was a longtime Duke assistant.
Mm-hmm.
He went to be the coach at UCF. Tommy Amaker coached at Michigan. He's been the coach at Harvard for over 10 years. A lot of people would assume that those types of guys would be Coach K's successors, but that's not how it goes.
Yeah.
North Carolina, we saw it. It's the loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
Duke, we see it again. It's the loyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, a guy that's sticking with Duke and wasn't going to leave. And, yeah, one of Coach K's best point guards of like the past 15 years, John Shire. So he trusts him fully, and he'll be stepping in next. Pretty young, also.
Yeah.
He's in his 30s.
Yep. Which is good for the program if he works out, like they can keep him around forever.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of the news that happened all this morning. So that was kind of crazy. We also had some crazy playoff stuff going on. So the first thing that I wanted to lead off with was Damien Lillard. This man is a monster. He single-handedly forced this game into double overtime against the Nuggets last night. The sad part was that they lost.
And it wasn't his fault in the slightest.
No. But they were the Blazers were down. He hits a three with like 3 seconds to go, force him into overtime. In the first overtime, the Nuggets, Monte Morris hit like back-to-back threes, and then they hit like another three and a free throw or something like that. So all of a sudden, the Nuggets in overtime with 2 minutes to go were up by 10, and then Damian Lillard just goes
Nuclear.
off and just hits like 3 threes or something like
Pulls
that.
up from 30, hand in his face, wet. Step back jumper, wet. Spin move, step back, tie the game.
Yeah, and one
Double
plays,
overtime.
and they sent him into double overtime.
Like I don't know how much of the highlights have you seen?
Some of them.
The reactions of the Nuggets players after he would hit those back-breaking shots.
Mm-hmm.
Like, once Dame hit that shot to tie it to go into double overtime, Monte Morris was like leaned over on his knees with his head down.
Yeah.
Austin Rivers was just looking up at the lights. And like at the end of the game when Damian Lillard like missed his final shot, Austin Rivers put up praying hands.
Yeah.
And just looked up to the top of the arena. Like he was taking the life out of the Nuggets.
Yeah.
It was bad.
And it's crazy because you talked about Austin Rivers and Monte Morris. Both of those guys basically saved the Nuggets.
Yeah.
In the overtimes.
Because Nikola Jokic was clearly everybody was tired, really.
Yeah.
There were only a few guys that had like some juice left.
Yeah. The unfortunate part too was that with what was it, like 7 seconds to go or something, the Blazers were down 3. And CJ McCollum threw the ball to the Nuggets. Or turned it over.
Well, before that, Dame Lillard passes it to Robert Covington. He misses a dunk.
Yeah.
And then CJ McCollum steps out of bounds.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, you can't do that. Even though CJ is clutch. He's a really good player.
Yeah.
Really good 2-guard. But in that situation, like, you've been on the court so much. You know where you are almost every time in every situation. He took one huge step back out of bounds, and it was obvious.
And could you imagine, though, too, like, they get the ball inbounds and they get it to Dame, and he hits another one to send him into triple overtime or something like that?
I don't think I would have been able to take it at that point. When it went into double overtime, I almost was like, I'm just going to go to sleep because I don't know how much more. I thought he was going to break the 3-point record.
Yeah, he was close.
But yeah, he started running out of gas a little bit near the end.
Did he tie it?
He tied Clay's.
Yeah, for playoffs.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
So,
or did he break it? I can't remember. He hit 12. He either tied it or broke it by 1.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm trying to see if I can see it. NBA playoff record 12. Okay, so Clay had 11, so he broke it. I thought it was tied, but anyway, so the crazy part is Dame's stat line beyond just the 55. So he had 55 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds.
He didn't turn it over, did he? Or just he had like 1 turnover?
1 turnover.
Ridiculous.
He had 1 steal and 3 blocks. And then
all-time playoff stat line.
The cherry on top of it is he scored 55, shooting 17 of 24. He missed 7 shots.
That's a Klay Thompson type of game.
And he was 12 of 17 from 3.
Yeah. Listen, man.
Like, that's all-time great numbers.
At the point guard position, there's Dame and Steph Curry, and nobody else touches them when it comes to shooting the ball.
Yeah.
When them two heat up, it's unexplainable watching them shoot.
Yeah.
When they're that hot, like it's stupid. And Dame, he's close to top 5 clutches in NBA history at this point.
Yeah.
He never lets the Blazers down when it's time to get a bucket in the clutch.
Yeah. The two downfalls to this game, maybe 3. CJ McCollum didn't play very well.
Yeah, I think he shot like 31% from the field.
Carmelo didn't shoot very well in this game either.
Nurkic fouled out.
And Nurkic fouled out.
And listen, Jokic was just giving everybody problems.
Yeah.
Nobody could stay on him. When they tried, they fouled him.
Right.
He's just, he's too savvy.
I mean, Jokic has 38, 11 rebounds, 9 assists. Like, he did what
Great
he
game.
does. Michael Porter Jr. had a clutch 3 late in the game.
That pass to the corner was ridiculous.
That was when the game was tied. That was 140 to 140.
It was like a over-the-shoulder 2-hand flick that went right over Robert Covington's hand.
Yeah.
Perfect. Monte Morris had 29?
28.
Okay, 28.
But, like I said, Monte Morris had a huge game, played 41 minutes. Austin Rivers, who I hate, I'll say right now.
Why?
Had 40.
Who you hate?
Played 47.
I don't think you've ever said this on the podcast.
Played 47 minutes at 18 points, 7 assists.
He's been huge for them.
I don't like him. I don't know. My brother's a big fan of Austin Rivers.
Huge. He's been huge for them, man.
So,
yeah, people have underestimated their guard depth.
Yeah.
I've said for a while, Monte Morris is a top 3 backup in the league.
Yeah.
And he's proved it.
Yeah. I mean, even Marcus Howard gave them some time.
He's an offensive machine.
Didn't look too bad.
And shouts out to my boy Campazzo.
I mean, he's
Just
been
a little highlight reel.
He's been holding it down. He didn't have a very good game in this one, but yeah. So I thought that was crazy. I think this puts Damien Lillard into like best clutch player. There's a while where there was a bit of a conversation like Steph's pretty good in the clutch. Durant's pretty good in the clutch. As much as I hate to admit it, LeBron has some clutch factor to him. And then there's Dame time. After that performance, I think he's taking the number 1 slot pretty easily.
I don't want to say anything crazy.
I just wish that game wasn't on NBA TV.
That's the thing. I got texts from a bunch of people that said either I don't have NBA TV. I have a friend that lives in Arizona. He said he was at a bar and they wouldn't turn the game on.
Wow.
And so he didn't see it. He said they just wouldn't turn the game on for some reason.
That's crazy. So yeah. And now the Nuggets are up 3-2. 3-2 on the Blazers.
Yeah.
So that was also just a really big game for the series in general.
Kind of backbreaking loss for the Blazers.
Yes.
Like recovering mentally from that one.
Especially for
tough.
Dame.
Yeah.
I know he can do it, but that's just it's tough when he put everything out on the line to win that game.
It shouldn't be that much on his shoulders. That's the problem.
Right. Okay, so the other like headline that I wanted to talk about. Actually, let's revert back real quick. 2 series have ended. The Bucks swept the Heat. The Heat looked
contest.
pitiful. We don't even have to talk about the Heat till the offseason.
Exactly.
And then the Nets.
Jimmy, I'm ashamed of you.
Yeah,
Jimmy, I'm ashamed.
It was bad all around. And then the Nets beat the Celtics 4-1. The Celtics did steal one, like we said, that we thought they might.
Yeah, Tatum 50.
Tatum had to score 50 for it. And so now the Nets are moving on. Nets look unstoppable. I honestly can't even see how they lose at this point.
I have a statement that I don't know how controversial it is. Some people might disagree. Some people might agree. I think James Harden is the second best basketball player in the world right now.
You have LeBron number 1?
It does not make sense how great he is. He's unstoppable on offense. He's unstoppable passing the ball. There's not much. He's almost a flawless player on the offensive side. Well,
that's where I think
there are only a few high level defenders in the NBA.
I think I'm gonna still put KD at number 2.
And I can understand it.
KD could arguably be number 1 because
watching James, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I feel that way about Kevin Durant when I watch his games. Like he seems like he's not trying.
Who, KD?
Yeah.
It's easy.
Like, he's just going through the motions. So I'm curious to see what happens when he's going to have to step up a little bit.
When you're 7 foot and you can move like that and you can just shoot over everybody.
Yeah. I'm just interested to see what happens when this team actually gets challenged a little bit. But
This
for
next series is going to tell.
it could be, yeah.
Milwaukee's got some rest. Even Shinzo being out sucks.
Yeah.
Because I think they need him. And it could still go 7, but without him, I don't know if they can beat Brooklyn.
Giannis versus Durant will be cool.
Giannis is going to get his. He dominated Brooklyn every time they
Yeah.
played this season.
Yeah. I just think it'll be fun. This will probably be that'll be James Harden's series.
It's time for Steve Nash to show some coaching.
Okay, so back to the bigger headlines. The Lakers,
Your favorite team.
they're up against the wall. They lost to the Suns last night, 115-85. Real bad loss. They didn't have AD. He sat this game. LeBron played decent.
Crazy part is the Lakers got out to they got up to like a 10-2 lead or like 8-2.
Yeah.
And
So,
from that point on,
in our little
Yeah.
group text, the game starts. The Lakers get out to a little lead. Chris sends us a message saying, LeBron looks unstoppable. I got the
Yeah.
Lakers in this one. Maybe 10 minutes later, the Suns are up by 10.
it was over.
It-
By halfway through the second quarter, the game was over.
It was great. Just for a little insight.
Yes.
But the Lakers supporting cast, they played terribly. I mean, Dennis Schroeder was nowhere to be seen. I don't even know. Like, they looked bad. And
Yeah, these are the moments where you expect Andre Drummond to do a little more,
he does
and
nothing.
he didn't do anything.
Any Detroit fan could tell you that.
And Marc Gasol is old. You can only expect a little bit from him. He's in there to shoot threes and keep the offense moving, basically.
Yeah.
He's not the defender he was in the past.
Right. And part of it is like you got Drummond. He only played 22 minutes in this one. Granted, it was a blowout. But they barely tried to give it to him inside. I feel like you want to try to take advantage. And now DeAndre Ayton's played great. But Drummond is bigger than Ayton. And I feel
But
like
he's not tougher than Ayton, and that's the problem.
maybe. That might be
That's
it.
that's no maybe.
But
AD and Andre Drummond do not like going at DeAndre Ayton.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, that could be part of the problem.
And he's outplayed them. AD had his great 2-game stretch because he's AD.
So then what's
But-
Montrezl Harrell's excuse? He played 12 minutes, 3 of 5.
I'm happy you brought this up. Steven Jackson made a great point, and he said this is karma for the Lakers
Yeah.
because they brought in the 6th man of the year, and basically in the second half of the season they made him a bench guy.
Mm-hmm.
They put no focus on him. They put him in for spot minutes basically, and they've done nothing with him. Now you just want to throw him in when AD is hurt,
Yeah.
knowing AD will probably get hurt because he's injury prone,
Mm-hmm.
and you just expect Montrezl Harrell to be the 6th man again, just like that.
Right.
You barely play him. It was a weird, very weird strategy.
Yeah.
Not having him more. As soon as they traded for Andre Drummond, Trez took a back seat,
Mm-hmm.
and it's weird that they just expect him to do a lot now.
I mean, and after all the, people meme on Tony Snell all the time. Dennis Schroeder played 26 minutes. He would have played more if it wasn't a blowout. He was 0 of 9, 0 of 4 from the 3. Had 1 assist, 4 rebounds. As one of the better players that they have, he needed to step up in this game and never
Devin
did.
Booker had 22 in the first half.
Devin Booker kind of blew out the Lakers by
The
himself.
way they were attacking the rim was I love seeing the way they were playing.
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as AD was out, they just went at Andre Drummond and Marc Gasol. Marc Gasol, you understand, he's not a rim protector. He's not jumping up and blocking shots.
Right.
Drummond, he's got to be better. And we know he's not that good of a defender,
Mm-hmm.
but he has to be better, at least a little better.
Right.
This is why they brought him in,
Mm-hmm.
to help in these types of situations.
Yep.
Do more than just rebound and make some layups.
Yeah.
But that might just be his ceiling.
And then you got your guy, Torrey Craig, 1 of 7, 0 of 4.
You don't care about Torrey. Why are you bringing up Torrey Craig?
Because he got in for the Suns.
Bring up Campaign.
Yeah,
The man that's balling.
Cameron Payne, I still don't think he should be in the league, but he's in the league. He found himself a spot, and Somehow all of a
I
sudden
still
it's
don't
worked.
think he should be in the league,
Somehow,
but he's playing better than Dennis Schroeder in the playoffs.
somehow it's worked. I don't
He
know.
improved, man.
I guess.
He improved as a player.
Took him long
Should
enough.
that be impossible?
No.
I was the leading hater of the campaign. The hate
the
club.
campaign. You see what I did there?
Very, very, very savvy. Yes. Very original of you.
Well,
Good job.
Okay.
But
The other-
don't do that to campaign.
The other big story that I kind of want to talk about, I don't know if it's as big necessarily as some of the others, but the 76ers are in a really odd spot right now. They're going to be without Joel Embiid tonight, which is game 5.
Is it back in Philly?
I'm
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because now it should be 1-1-1.
Yeah.
And Philly is leading 3-1. The
They-
Wizards did steal one. Because Ben Simmons can't take over a game.
He can when he wants to.
And there was a lot of criticism about Ben Simmons, again, as usual.
There should be more,
And Doc Rivers defended Ben Simmons.
as he usually
Once
does,
again.
which is bad for him.
Now, part of it was Doc Rivers saying, he was kind of saying that people were saying that Ben Simmons should sit, that he shouldn't play as much as he should, which anybody that knows basketball realizes that's dumb to say. And that's what Doc Rivers said. If you think I'm going to sit a guy like Ben Simmons, I'm not going to do it.
Hey, don't sit him.
Yeah. Nobody said to sit him because he's shooting 25% from the free throw line, which is the worst in 4 games in history of the playoffs. Worse than Shaq, worse than Ben Wallace, worse than anybody. It's
And
terrible.
that's on him. He hasn't tried to improve his jumper.
And so then the criticism becomes that, he can't take the pressure or whatever. And then people also saying, why can't he take over games? Well, then Doc Rivers goes on to defend and say, that's not the type of player Ben Simmons is.
And he's right about that.
But the way that he defends him is just so,
I agree.
I don't know the wording,
It
but
it doesn't help Ben Simmons at all.
he's too handholdy. Like Doc needs to be a
Exactly.
little bit more.
They are coddling him and babying him.
Yes.
He says, I don't want to play offense. I don't want to score. And they're like, Ben, you're great at everything else.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine. You don't need to score, Ben. Perfect. And you're going to lose because of it.
Exactly. It's not perfect. I don't care. Like, okay, so the thing that I've said for a while, everybody wants him to learn a jumper, get a jumper.
The jumper
That's all he.
That's not the.
That's all he needs. Okay, yeah, you're right. That would be all he needs. At this point, he's not going to learn how to shoot a jumper. But
The jumper isn't the problem.
But something that we've seen from guys like LeBron, who have had similar criticisms at times, is there are points where LeBron will run down the floor, do a spin move towards the basket, get an easy layup. And he can do that like multiple times on the floor.
He's mastered simple moves.
Ben
He's
Simmons,
nothing close to the most skilled player ever, but he's mastered simple spin move, drive straight to the basket, up and under layup, simple stuff.
Ben Simmons
Turn
needs to
around
use
jumper.
his gigantic 6'10" body
6'10", 250, Joey.
to
6'10", 250.
to bully these little point guards. I know Russ is like a somewhat bulkier point guard, but he's still much smaller.
Ben Simmons should be a top 5 player in the NBA. Right?
Top 10.
Top 5.
He doesn't have the jumper, so
He's
he's not willing to make a jumper. Even without a jumper, top 10. If he committed to if he was committed to increasing his jump shooting, yes, I
If
could see
he
top 5.
established a simple offensive game, that's all it takes.
Yeah. And
I'm
we've seen him
that's
be
what
able to do it. That is the problem.
I'm not even saying jumper.
Yeah.
Just establish a
Yeah.
simple offensive game.
Mm-hmm. He scored 40 towards the end of the season.
He had a 40-point triple-double against Utah.
I don't get it. The problem is we've talked about this on the podcast multiple times about Ben Simmons.
This has been a problem for years. But, like you said with Doc Rivers, it's not a problem, right, Joey?
right?
There is no problem.
Yeah.
Why are you talking about Ben's negatives?
He's fine.
Just talk about his positives.
He's only your best player, and he only shot 5 shots. There's not a problem. He got 12 rebounds. But in this game, he only had
Yeah.
3 assists.
He
So
has-
he's not doing his entire job.
He has the physical ability of LeBron James, but
Yeah.
just play defense and pass.
If Doc says, okay, he's one of the best defending point guards, correct.
He's a great
a-
defender. He's a great passer. He's a
he's-
great rebounder.
But in this game, when they didn't have Embiid, he only had 3 assists. So he's not doing his job even up to Doc Rivers standards. So why is he not getting criticism?
Don't talk about his negatives, Joey. Talk about his positives. Talk about what he does well, man. That's what's going to help him become a greater player.
I'm
The
positive.
guy that's averaging 14 points a game, Joey, that's what's going to help.
I'm positive that he's not doing enough for his team
Duh!
because they don't have the team around him for him to be able to be that player.
I swear, man. Doris Burke is the only person. I swear, every time she commentates a Sixers game, she says from the beginning of the game, Ben Simmons, if you don't get aggressive, this team will never win. And she says it nonstop. And she's the only person that says it.
Mm-hmm.
But then everybody comes back with the don't talk about his negatives, only
Yeah.
talk about his positives.
Yeah.
Because we're going to baby Ben Simmons till the end.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to the Wizards.
Maybe he should sit Ben Simmons.
maybe.
Maybe he should.
Let's move on to the Wizards because they did play pretty well. I just want to quickly touch on him. Rui Hachimura had a really, really good game.
He's improving really well. Daniel Gafford, man,
Yeah.
they've found some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They've really found something.
Change of scenery for him has worked out really well.
Yeah.
Like I said, Russ, he did good, but he was 3 of 19 from the
Listen.
floor.
As he's gotten better as a point guard, his shooting has gotten worse, which is wild.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
got 21 rebounds, 14 assists, still got 19 points because he was able to get to the line.
Yeah.
13 of 16 free throws. So that's like, you can even draw comparisons for Russ and Ben Simmons. They're somewhat similar in a way. But the intensity that Russ brings.
There's one difference. Russ is the most aggressive point guard in
Exactly.
basketball history.
So even though he was 3 of 19, which nobody likes, nobody's saying they like that, he got to the line and he made his free throws. If Ben Simmons could do that, I think he'd be in a lot better spot. He wouldn't be as heavily criticized. Just a little. Bradley Beal didn't have a great game. Davis Bertans, solid. He's going to be out, I think, for the rest of the series, or at least just tonight. I don't really remember. Robin Lopez, they finally gave him some
Captain
time.
Hook. I love Robin.
8 of 11,
I love
16
Robin.
points. But yeah, the Wizards bench has been solid, and
They've been the reason why they've won these games.
and with-
Everybody else stepping up. Ish Smith has
Mhm.
been a fantastic backup point guard.
and now the Sixers are in a weird spot. Like I said,
They gotta win this game.
Embiid's going to be
They
back.
have to.
Embiid should be back by game 6, maybe, but he's out for this game, so this game will be huge for them, for the Sixers. So, shall be interesting to see. Couple of the other series, Hawks and Knicks are tonight. Hawks feel like they've run away with it. They're up 3-1, playing much better.
Yeah.
Julius Randle looks terrible, and I hate to say it because I've loved him all season. He's given a lot of effort, but
He had his best game of the series last game, and it still wasn't great.
yeah, he's been beaten and banged by the Hawks bigs man.
D Rose has been the Knicks' only saving grace.
Yeah.
The only thing, and that's not good.
Mm-hmm.
That an aging Derrick Rose is your best player.
Yeah. It looks like the Hawks did everything right in their offseason.
Yeah.
Clint Capella was such a surprise to me. I thought that leaving the rim running Rockets was going to hurt him, but he's fit right into this Hawks team. I mean, they still rim run a bit, so it's not exactly the same, but it is similar. But he's just played so well and so efficiently for them. It's incredible.
Yeah, I brought this up yesterday when we were texting. Isn't it sad that Trae Young? I mean, it's good for Atlanta and Trae Young that he's only in his 3rd year and he already has almost a complete roster.
Mm-hmm.
And like help, he has Bogdanovich, he has Gallinari, and if he doesn't have them, he has Lou Williams. And if they're not on, he has John Collins. And if they're not on, Solomon Hill might be on.
Yeah.
Like he has a good 7-8 guys after him
Mm-hmm.
that can still do work.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, Dame Lillard is in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And after CJ, who can you fully depend on?
Yeah. And this is a scenario almost the opposite of the Celtics, where it's like the Hawks have hit on almost every one of their draft picks. Now they have had better picks overall,
I didn't even bring up DeAndre Hunter. Yeah.
right? But they have Trae Young, John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, Okongwu's starting to get some time.
Your boy, you haven't even
Kevin
brought him up
Huerter,
yet.
my man, he's hit some clutch shots.
Cam Reddish is hurt. He's not even playing.
Mm-hmm. And then their free agency, like I said, Capella, Bogdanovich, Gallinari, like they built their team so perfectly.
And
from
then
the
they
ground
traded
up.
for Lou right before the playoffs.
Yes. Like Atlanta has done so many things right, and they're such a fun team to watch. So it's going to be exciting to see them move forward because I like I said, I think the Knicks are done. I think they are going to need another year, another guy.
They're about to go star chasing again, so we'll see how that goes.
Dame to New York.
I would love to see Dame in New York. Dame deserves that
It
level.
would be cool.
He deserves that level of love and appreciation.
Yeah, Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
Clippers and Mavericks. I'm a little scared for the Mavericks now. Clippers have tied this series up. They've won back-to-back games, looking a lot better.
Pandemic P might be officially dead.
Yeah.
And Kawhi is just doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
He's never been the problem.
Yeah.
He never has.
And
Everybody else is finally stepping up.
the Mavericks have cooled down. It's unfortunate because Tim Hardaway Jr. was doing exactly what he said or what we said we wanted him to do in the first two games, and he did exactly what we didn't want him to do in the next two games. And that's kind of been part of the issue. Besides Porzingis and Doncic, there hasn't been that third guy consistently for the Mavericks.
Really, besides Doncic, because Porzingis isn't what he used to be.
Yeah, he hasn't been. He's been good, but he's not been dominant necessarily. He's had some.
He's been good a few games. He's been bad a few games too.
Yeah, he's had his spots. Game 3 especially was not very good for him. So yeah, I think the Mavericks might be in trouble. I think they needed to go up 3-1 to be able to maybe secure this. That game's on tonight. And then the Grizzlies and Jazz. Now that Donovan Mitchell's back, the Jazz are back. And, it was cool to see the Grizzlies take the game 1, but I think the Jazz are just going to kind of run away with this one.
Taking those two in Memphis, I think that kind of it doesn't settle things, but it almost does. Because taking away that momentum from Memphis, and Memphis played really well. Like we said, they're a team we've been looking out for and we'll keep looking out for in the next few years because they're playing really tough against Utah. They just don't have enough yet.
Yeah, they're not quite there. And maybe you need a longer time of healthy Jaren Jackson.
Yeah.
Because it seems like he's still kind of trying to work his way back in.
Yeah, you got the franchise player in Ja. You got Jaren Jackson. When he's healthy, he's close to an all-star forward.
Mm-hmm.
Jonas Valanciunas has been a perfect fit. I think they might need to trade Dylan Brooks.
I think so.
I think they need a higher caliber of two guard.
Mm-hmm.
And Dylan has really played well in these playoffs. He deserves a contract from somebody. But if they want to take the next step, I think they need somebody better than Dylan.
Yeah.
They need a real high-level two guard.
Mm-hmm.
They should go after somebody like Zach LaVine. I think that would be really, really interesting if they got him. Random thought.
Yeah, maybe I could see it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have this now. When we have a couple minutes left. Do you want to preview the Nets and the Bucks?
Those were all the series?
Yeah, we went through them all
Oh, okay.
fairly quickly. Like
Yeah.
I said, we have.
I expected you to want to stick on the Lakers a little bit more. We went on a huge Ben Simmons
Yeah, we did.
rant, which was great, but
Yeah, and I mean the Lakers.
you didn't bask in the happiness.
LeBron's gonna need to fully take over, and
Yeah.
I don't know if he's gonna be able to, which is great. So yeah, I
So-
want to kind of talk about
Bucks Nets.
the Eastern Conference because the Bucks Nets is set. That's going to be played on Saturday.
So with DiVincenzo out, do you think the Nets have the slight?
I think the
favor
Nets
right now?
always have the slight favor, and I know it's just, they have the big three, but even with DiVincenzo, I just struggle to think that the Bucks are going to be able to play at such a high defensive level to stop these guys and also be able to score on the other end, that's just going to be
Well, Brooklyn doesn't play defense, so
right.
scoring won't be the problem.
Right. But I don't know. Like, I feel like this is going to be the series where Kevin Durant actually starts to play defense, which is always scary for some people. But I think Giannis is going to do fine. I think KD is going to do fine. I think Drew could give Kyrie some issues.
I think people don't realize this. When Kyrie wants to be a good defender, he can really lock up.
Yeah.
He could give Drew Holiday some issues.
Right. And
if he's locked in.
And that's where I feel like it comes down to James Harden versus Chris Middleton for this series. And I just, I don't.
James is winning that matchup. Yeah.
So it's like, right. But I was just saying I can't see a way of Chris Middleton figuring out something.
Yeah. James and Kyrie, that's going to be a weird thing to figure out.
Yeah.
Because if you put Drew on James, there won't be as much like running around, and like he'll have to just stay in one place and like take the physicality of James.
Yeah.
And I don't know how like many steals he'll be able to get off of him. And then if he's on Kyrie, it's going to be a bunch of running around, a lot of It's going to be a tough matchup either way.
And then you go to, okay, those are like the top 3 versus 3. And you go to the 4th player. For the Bucks, maybe it's Brook Lopez, but maybe it's Bryn Forbes off the bench. For the Nets, it's Joe Harris. And I think I'm taking Joe Harris every time.
Yeah, I think they're going to have Pat Connaughton just chase him around.
Mm-hmm.
And how much stamina does Pat Connaughton have? That's the question. Because while switching with KD and Kyrie and James Harden, I think there might be a few situations where Pat gets in early foul trouble, and Bryn Forbes is going to have to play a lot.
Yeah,
which he's responded well doing that, but yeah.
So I'm excited for this series. I'm curious to see what happens, but I feel like the Nets are still going to kind of cakewalk it. It'll be a little bit more intense, but not much. I don't know. This is my thoughts, but I hope it's a good series because, like I said, I think Giannis versus KD is pretty cool. The other one I want to bring up, and I know it is a subject to change because things could happen, but right now it looks like it's going to be the Sixers and the Hawks. And with the way the Sixers have been going and the way that Capella's been locking down Julius Randle, Joel Embiid are different players, but I think they could slow him down a little bit. There's a good chance the Hawks could make the Eastern Conference Finals.
If Joel Embiid is healthy, I don't think so.
I think the Hawks' depth also causes issues.
The Hawks' depth is an issue, but this is their first time in the playoffs. Even though they have some veterans, like their stars, Trae Young first time, John Collins first time. Yeah, they're adjusting, but Philly has been here so many times. Mm-hmm. Like if this version of healthy Joel and underachieving Ben Simmons and high-level Tobias Harris can't get past the Hawks, then there are problems.
Yeah.
Because Doc Rivers has gotten the best out of them since Jimmy left.
Yeah.
So they need to win that one.
Well, yeah, I know they need to.
I wouldn't be mad if the Hawks won.
I'm just saying
I would enjoy it.
I think there's a little chance that the Hawks could do it. And then they get blown out by the Nets. But yeah, I just think it's interesting. Western Conference will hold off a little bit because those series are still close. It looks like the Jazz are going to go forward, but the other series are all pretty locked up. So we'll have to talk about them next week. Most of the game ones for even the second round should have started by the time we do next week's podcast. So we'll get a little bit of insight on those series. Yeah. But I'm excited for more playoffs because so far it's been good, and the series have been closer than I actually expected in a lot of cases. So it's a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll talk more NBA playoffs next week. See you guys next time.
Super weird scenario. Brad Stevens is now at the top. Hire Danny Ainge as the coach. What if they just swap positions?
Your head is spinning too much, Malik.
Hey man, we're going for the gold here. We're just going crazy.
I'm cutting
Why
you
not?
off.
Why not?